Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am Aurora. This class is called Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. And I sent out the notification for this rather late last night because I admit that I fell asleep before I actually sent out the email. So thank you for everyone for understanding why that was at like 3 in the morning. And that's also why I did not include the notes. But this is level one, lesson three. Okay. So if you want to, follow along with the whiteboards and find the notes in the PDF. You can find them, and I will make sure to send that out in the archive. Okay. So actually, I should have pulled up my notes even before I got on screen here. Now I'm making squinty scrolly faces, but it's going to be right over here. It should be right over here. Interesting. My notes aren't syncing. Don't worry, I'll find it. Okay. And sorry, every time I touch my thing, it makes lots of shakingness. So now, topic for today is basically the shape of time. We've been really focusing on this since the beginning of this semester, just a couple of weeks ago, talking about this as the shape of your time body, the shape of your chakras, the shape of both five senses reality analogs like Earth's magnetic field, the sun's field around it, a dipole magnet, a solenoid, at various aspects of electromagnetic energy that we can sense with our five senses. But as we're learning about this, recognizing that this is a shape of what would be considered esoteric energy, energy that we experience, but we do not sense it with our five senses. So that is the energy of time. And as I've been drawing for you, this lower quadrant in my famous shorthand of my line drawings that look just like a vortex. Like we have chopped this in half like this, or flattened it out, and we're just looking at this bottom layer over here. And also in that diagram, I've described how time has an energy. This is what we focused on last week in a relatively informal but importantly timed teaching sharing about what entropy is. So this shape that I'm holding here has motion. It is dynamic. Time does not just sit still. It doesn't just sit on the couch doing nothing. Time does stuff. Time is moving. This is really important. In fact, time and electricity and light all have something in common, and that is that they are defined by their movingness. They're not stuck or sedentary or what's another word? Static and immobile. They are highly dynamic. So energy flows around this shape, and the energy that flows around this shape is actually the energy of consciousness. So now we're starting to talk more and define terms as esoteric energy. When I draw this dot, I'm not just going to mute you. Thank you for coming to class, but just be sure if you come in a little late, just make sure to mute yourself. Thank you for that. So you have a little dot that represents you as a point of consciousness on one of these many timelines. And each of these timelines represents a positive, possible, I meant to say not positive, a possible set of either characteristics or choices that you have made, like an equation that you are exploring. And in this time diagram, there's literally only one equation that is the correct equation. There's literally only one. So if you could count all of the possible possibilities that are implied by this time vortex shape, it would be billions or trillions, like an enormously brain liquefyingly large number, okay? But there's only one correct equation, and that is what is at the center. I call it the central core timeline or the path of least likelihood. And I'm going to emphasize this again and again because this is important aspect of your non-physical anatomy. Just like saying like your heart pumps your blood around your body. And we say that over and over. It's like, okay, we're like, we've got it. We've internalized the truth of that. Yeah, thank you. I'm just shedding layers because it's a very warm day here. But your central core timeline is your path of mastery. It is the least likely path, and it is literally the only path that leads you out of this layer of reality. So this will be a fun topic to explore for anyone who feels existential, nihilistic ennui, and a sense of dread at constant repetitions of time loops, negative time loops. I'm smiling because I know that that's the opposite of how you actually feel. That you don't actually feel very smiley at all. You feel very frowny and very sad. You're like, I don't like doing this, and I've done this 10 million times. And existential ennui and boredom, Groundhog's Day level of despair at times as I continue to smile even more inappropriately. Because I smile because there is a pathway out of here and it is not death. Very, very big stuff. So in this diagram, like I'm going to gesture now as if my hands are these lower membranes. These represent boundaries. And these are boundaries beyond which the math doesn't work. On an anthropomorphic level, it means you have no more energy that is propelling you through time. They are dead ends or cul-de-sacs, timelines that don't go any further. In a mathematical abstract level, there is no more time after that moment because the math has devolved. It's like you got the answer from the computer of life. And when I say computer, I'm not a transhumanist. So these are all just allegories to be able to have some facility to be able to talk about very abstract concepts. But kind of like when you put information into a computer and then it does stuff and then it churns and then it spits out the answer at the end. And when you have a timeline that reaches the membrane of death, the computer or supercomputer, biological, beautiful, miraculous computer of life is giving you feedback and it basically says, wrong answer, and you did not do things correctly. And in this class, I often talk about a poetic interpretation of what happens on the moment of death in a pristine system. When a consciousness reaches that moment, they have a life assessment that is a necessary unraveling of the incorrect genetic sweater that they have knit. So every moment moving upward through the time vortex, the DNA is doing stuff. Your genetic sweater is like making loops and then connecting itself, and then unconnecting itself, and doing all sorts of amazing things. That is literally what is propelling you through time. But let's say you didn't do very well on making all these loops. The sweater doesn't fit correctly. Maybe it's wildly asymmetrical, like short sleeve here and a long sleeve here, or something, like that. And that's why you reach the membrane of death. And then as you get your life assessment, really all of those loops of the sweater are pulled out. And the DNA is returned to its original form, which is just like a ball of yarn. Like the sweater has not yet been made. It's just the potential of a bunch of DNA. And as that is unformed, as it is pulled apart, the energy of all of those time events is released, and the experiencer has an assessment that is like a clipboard. And I joke about this, but it's a good analogy. And like some serious person is there helping you to see that here's all the places where you make your mistakes. This thing thinks that I'm raising my hand in my own meeting, but I'm not. It will show you red X's, like when you turn in your homework to the teacher and the teacher looks it over and is like, okay, good, 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 red X, red X, red X. Do these things better. All right. In a very nice, neutral way. This is what happens with the assessment of a consciousness that has found its trajectory onto the membrane of death, key point in a pristine system. And that this is actually a positive and life-affirming activity, even though death has occurred. You got the answer from the cosmic infrastructure that you did not do things correctly. And you also got the critical answer of what needs to be improved in order to do things correctly. And then upon that assessment, going all the way down the membrane of death, going back to the beginning line, the starting line, like runners, take your marks, back to the starting line, and this time assembling in a slightly new position. The beginning posture each time is slightly closer to optimum. If this is the central core timeline, each time you begin a little bit closer to where you really need to be. and that you also have some vestigial trace knowledge or wisdom of how your sweater was malformed in the earlier attempts and to do it better the next time. So you've got this ball of yarn. All of this is poetic. Use your poetic mind, like just kind of relax into your artistic mind. Get out of your rational mind for a moment. So, like, you're knitting your life and you're knitting together events. And you get to this critical point when I've never really knit a sweater. Again, another theoretical thing that I like talk a lot about, but I've never actually done in a physical form. You have to count and make sure you're counting your stitches correctly, right? Like 23 stitches or it's 42 stitches or whatever. And you're doing your thing. And then you get to this point, you're like, oh yeah, here's that time where I really messed up. And maybe it was a really important time, like on the sweater, when you kind of like get like from where this part turns into the sleeve and you have to count very correctly. Or, like if you're making a sock, like where the heel goes together like this. And this time you're going to do it better. You're like, last time I really screwed this up. Last time I didn't count correctly. Last time I did my math all wrong. This time I'm going to count correctly. You get extra focus on those moments that were your red X's on previous attempts. And then each time you transcend those mistakes, you are propelled further along on the journey. It's like saying you were able to play a song or a symphony without any mistakes up until that moment. And again, the goal of what you are trying to do in the journey of your consciousness, in this refinery of consciousness, is to be able to play from down here at birth all the way up this central core timeline, all the way back to the remembrance of yourself as the divine presence, reconnection with God, and play a perfect rendition with no mistakes. And that is a very, very tall order. All right. And I recognize that if you are a perfectionist like me, in case you can't tell, like all of my paintings and everything that is so perfect and everything like that. Yeah, no, if I have one little tiny mistake in my paintings, it just kills me. And I really do everything I can to like scrape it away with razor blade, repaint it, make it perfect, smooth the edges. I do all of that. Yeah, no. So if you're a perfectionist at all like me, and you probably are if you're in this class, like, you're a good person trying to do the right thing in your life, really considering the ramifications of all of your choices and where you're going in the time field, your motivation, your volition, and all these things, that you're trying to do the right thing. It's very burdensome and a huge amount of pressure to be like, oh my God, I have to play a perfect symphony in order to get out of this very garbage world and non-pristine system, which I admit has been rather, what would we call it? Rather wearing on the soul to be here. Um, you have to play a perfect symphony. And that's a lot because something like you're having to remember a lot of information, you're having to coordinate your hands and make sure that all of your fingers go on the keyboard exactly correctly. It's a lot. It's a lot. It is something that we did in ancient concurrent Atlantis as a very natural aspect of our being because we literally never even considered the possibility of death. So it was not something that was even in our realm of consideration. And another key point, we at that point in our evolution did not yet have putis who were imbalancing us on the membrane of death. And I talked about this in class last week. Those pesky occupiers of the interstices. Yeah, tip to Pedro, as always, for giving us that wonderful acronym. But the putis are echoes of consciousnesses that once lived. And also there are putis who are what we would call primordial evil or demons who never lived. And they both occupy this area that is the membrane of death that is really supposed to be a boundary and a transit place between worlds. And you're not supposed to hang out there. You're just supposed to be a bunch of sweater material that gets unfurled, gets your red clipboard life assessment, goes back to the beginning, and attempts to do this again. But the whole idea of there being like infrastructure there, like a whole city, or um, um, an ecosystem, like an economy in some way, or organisms that go there and just stay there for whatever days, weeks, months, years, an uncountable amount of time because time runs very differently on the membrane of death. All of that is not supposed to be there. And also, we're having a little bit of connectivity issue. Like I'm noticing a little bit of a lag. So I hope that there's not a problem with you guys. If we have a problem with the meeting, just stay put and I will hop back in and I might have to use my phone. Okay. So you're not supposed to have people, or I hesitated to say the whatever word. You're not supposed to have like um what would be a word for it? Occupiers. You are not supposed to have anybody, not a body, any something. There's nothing's supposed to be there. It's supposed to be no thing there. It's supposed to be totally empty space. That is not supposed to be filled with stuff. Right now it is filled with stuff. How did it get filled with stuff? And also that stuff is having a direct negative impact on you, me, and everyone else. That stuff is why we are having to go through all of these repetitive cycles in order to figure out how to actually get through this experience and reach the path of least likelihood going up the center. If it were not for the Prutis, this would be a very not only doable puzzle, like it would not be this sense of boredom, ennui, impossibility, or just, excessive wear and tear on the soul. It would be joyous. You would feel so happy and so energized because you would also, how it is in ancient or concurrent Atlantis, we are continually in remembrance of ourself as God, the divine presence. And we see everything and anticipate and precog everything about the future. So you're never going to hit the membrane of death if you know that you need to recalibrate what you're doing in any way. Last week in class, someone shared about the mountain bikers that bike around the house, like whatever the paths that are on the mountain over there. She's like, yeah, they're coming this close to the membrane of death. And I'm like, I know it's a pretty dicey proposition because they don't have their higher faculties activated. Like we used to do all sorts of very stunt, whatever acrobatic stunts in ancient concurrent Atlantis. It was not a big deal because we could absolutely see and calculate the future. And so we knew like, okay, 1 centimeter to the left, I will hit the membrane of death. 2 feet to the right, I will hit the membrane of death. But if I stay right here, with myself, my bicycle, or my parachute, or whatever, then I will have a wonderful adventure and I will not die. And we simply stayed within those parameters. So as I'm teaching you in class, you're starting to comprehend that death is not a personification or something or someone who is out to get you. Death is actually a very, very positive sense of the cosmic infrastructure giving us boundaries. And boundaries are good. Boundaries are like when I was a professional nanny and like, a live-in nanny and a babysitter 20 years ago. I worked with all sorts of kids. And when you set a boundary for them, it is a way of saying, I love you. It is a way of saying, like, I care about you. I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to do the wrong thing. And I want to help you learn and grow and evolve. And I want to keep you safe. I already said that part. And then also, learning about boundaries is part of taking self-responsibility. And we have to learn about that in order to grow and evolve. So little children, when you set a boundary, I remember very distinctly this one little girl, there was a glass coffee table. And again, like if I had a little child, I would not have a glass coffee table because they're inherently dangerous. And I'm the babysitter and I have to like constantly be keeping the kid away from the glass coffee table. And she was like 3. I said to her, like, don't touch this. And then I turned around to go prepare like whatever her little McNuggets or whatever is her lunch. And then I look over my shoulder, like she's going right over to the table to touch it. And I said to her, like, I just said to you, don't touch this. And she was even kind of giggling and smiling, like, I know you just told me not to do this. And I did it. And so it was a way of me being able to say, like, I am keeping an eye on you. I just told you not to do a thing for your own safety and precaution. And now you decided to test whether I was actually watching and caring. And I am here. I am watching and caring. And then also I had to teach her that there are consequences. So there was no ice cream because she touched the table. All right. So just know it is a similar level of benevolent oversight when you are given boundaries in the time field of areas that you are not meant to explore because they're the equivalent of like touching a glass coffee table. Like you should not go there. Like, guess what, guys? You know, if you put the information into the cosmic bio supercomputer, like this plus this plus this plus this plus this equals death. And that's pretty bad. Maybe it could be worse. You know, like maybe you're having these boundaries here because if you made your math even worse, maybe it would be even worse. You got it? Like there is an area beyond which you cannot go because you would become so deformed and devolved that that would be even worse. You got it? So even death, as I'm presenting it, is something in a pristine system that is very just, very appropriate, very righteous, and not something that is like, you know, some cruel, infinite punishment. The Putis have created for themselves a type of cruel, infinite punishment. You all got to know this too, because there's so many existential questions about like, well, mommy, daddy, if God is good and God exists, and why did God create evil, and why did God create hell, and why are there demons suffering in hell, and why are the demons trying to vampire us, and many, many different valid questions. The answer is God, the divine presence, did not actually invent the Putis. God actually invented a place that was this clear memory where no one is supposed to go. And if you follow your insight perfectly, you never go there. And it becomes an abstraction on the periphery, not your main dish. Total side dish, total side quest, something that you never even really put your attention on and never even really inhabit or experience. So the fact that any amount of inhabitation or experience is going on there is an aberrance, part of a system that is not actually supposed to be that way. And the idea that these guys, like I said, some of them are primordial evil, they've never lived. Some of them got bodies, which is like a huge accomplishment. Like, get a body, be alive. But they weren't like, hooray, I'm alive. They were like, can I screw it up? And they screwed it up really, really effectively. And those are the guys from Mars that built the cracked time toaster. And they toasted themselves right onto the membrane of death, like smeared on the event horizon, semi-alive, semi-dead, in a limbo, somehow still echoing there, and definitely in an unrestful state. And that is also an aberration. So it's not even death, where what you have is just the unraveling of your sweater, learning about what you did wrong, and then the opportunity to go and try to knit it all together again. They are stuck. Their sweaters are like, I don't even know what's the state of their sweaters, if they're raveled, unraveled, where their DNA is, what is going on with them. But they have not been reinserted into reality. They are stuck there. They didn't get resolved. They're not going to get another body. And this is really, really important for you to know because a lot of their motivation is in somehow influencing you as you have a body. Like, imagine somebody who got a house or whatever and they trashed the place and they burned it down. And they're like, well, now I have no place to live. But they look at you and they're like, well, you've got a house. I like your house. Maybe can I live in your house? And you're like, no, my house is my house. Like you can't live here. And I have boundaries. And they're like, we don't care. And we're going to invade or live in your basement or live in your shed or live in your attic, whether you like it or not. And that is pretty much the level of rapport that you have. I won't even say relationship because it is totally non-consensual with the ghosts, the echoes, the genetic bad taste that is left in the mouth from these former existences that have not been resolved. And you also have to know, like, their lives where they did that, that wasn't just like the first time they played a wrong note. If you play a wrong note, you go to the membrane of death and you learn on the clipboard, like, wrong note, do it better next time, get back in there, kid. And they did that over a lot of places. Like, they died many, many, many times. And this was pretty much like their last opportunity. And they definitely, I want to say, peed and pooped all over it. They disrespected this last final opportunity. Arson burnt down their own house. They destroyed themselves. They did it to themselves. So never think of them as like poor victims or damsels that need to be rescued. That's a big trope that I think mostly seekers in the community of spiritual attainment have moved past the sense of demons being like, poor me, I'm a poor demon stuck in the afterlife. Like, help me, fix me. Do you know, do, do something to help me. And I think that you know at this point that that's just like a total ploy and complete ridiculousness. That they're like, no, they built a whole empire in their hell realm. They're very happy there, torturing the living, trying to demonically possess the living, trying to control our infrastructure, like our economy of life, like, of like agriculture and gold and things that are in the world. Like, these are ghosts, like they can't eat food, they can't carry gold, like, but they are trying to influence how we as living people use these actual resources of the world, or even to influence reproduction, sexual energy. They do all sorts of naughty things like that. So a huge thing is to start to recognize in your own life and in the world, taking energy away from those, because we talked about entropy last week in class. It is an establishment of boundaries to say some levels of consciousness don't deserve to have energy. Like, they should not have any amount of energy, and they should not access energy, and they should not influence life or the living, and that's us. So when I tell you that those guys that live on the membrane of death, they're in a chakra or the chakra systems, and the chakra systems are inside of you, then you're like, well, wait a minute, I'm a smart person. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C, then that means that demons live inside of me. Am I demonically possessed? And the answer is no, you are not demonically possessed, but you are demonically inhabited. And these two things are different, because when you are in charge of your own free will, then they might be sleeping on your couch, living in your basement against your will, living in your shed against your will. And you know what? It is totally your job to exert your boundaries and to say, get out. Gross, disgusting, demonic echoes, pooties, or whatever the heck you are. You don't belong inside of me. Get out. And these pooties present as addictions, or like eating disorders, or negative personality characteristics that are self-sabotage. That can be things like procrastination from truly life-affirming activities, self-doubt, self-hatred, body shaming of yourself and possibly of others. Because a lot of it is also being like disgusted by the body. So that's part of when you start to feel like you're looking at yourself and you're disgusted by yourself. Please know it's not really you. It is these pooty things that are in the chakras that are inside of you, and you need to clean house. Because the truth is, you look at your body like you're a miracle. You're like, wow, I'm a miracle. Think back to what it was like to be a little infant or a little tiny child. Like, wow, like I'm here, I'm alive, this is amazing. Sometimes people have to have a near-death experience or some kind of like reset in adulthood for them to regain that sense of wonder and appreciation of their body and of what it even is to be alive. But hopefully you don't have to have a life altering accident or something like that to be able to finally come to appreciation on your body. So a big part of what I teach, and I mentor for other people, is, yeah, no, you're a miracle in a miracle, and that being alive is not a torment, it is a gift and a wonderful opportunity, and that it is absolutely your prerogative, my back goes up, to clean house, clear out all of those negative personality characteristics, clear out the pooties from your chakras, and also to turn down the volume, as I spoke about last week in class, on the negative personality characteristics that are genetic, as you are like the music editor using your software system to be able to determine what instruments go louder, or conductor of the orchestra in an analog world. Louder, play with more passion, up, 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 or too loud, softer, 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 you're too loud. And to be able to even turn down or delete certain instruments that are completely without merit, like the disease that is CANCER, tumorous disease, like, serves nothing. It's not supposed to be in our world at all. You don't need that. And some characteristics are good characteristics in your DNA. You want them to be there, but you want them to be mitigated. So that means that if it runs rampant, it's not good. It has to be balanced by something else, or sometimes have an off button. Like if you're ever creating a program, a software program, a magical spell, you have to include an off button. boy, if there's anything that I haven't mentioned before in class that's an important tip of the trade, that's one of them. Please file that away for future reference. Please include off buttons to all of your creations, guys. This is important stuff. Yeah, because even the best stuff can be too much. Whatever, you can think of yourself like ice cream, like the infinite ice cream maker. It's just making tons of ice cream and you're floating in a sea of ice cream. It must have an off button. All good things can be too much. You must have off buttons. So that could be when you achieve this many gallons of ice cream, please turn off, or please run for 5 years, create ice cream for 5 years and then turn off, or anything like that. This is important stuff when you start to become a master of your reality. That core timeline, path of least likelihood, is you becoming a master of reality. It is the least likely thing that could possibly happen, but it is an inevitability. So as I was getting back to my inappropriate buoyancy, to those who are experiencing existential dread and profound ennui at their cyclical existence within what is known as the matrix, I'm like, don't fret, because you will get out of here. It is inevitable. If you go through enough iterations, you will get out of here. You will open every single door that it's possible to open, and then you'll finally be like, that wasn't the door. This is finally the right one. And then you're finally on the correct timeline. That's a bit exhausting. It's not really how you're supposed to have to do things. So what you really want to do is get your DNA optimized so that you reactivate your higher faculties. Don't have to fly blind. When you cannot read the musical score, that is when you play wrong notes. So again, I'm saying the way to get out of this level of limited reality is to engage with time in a way that is flawless from the moment you are born until the moment that you do not die, but you transcend this level of materiality. And you never make one mistake. That means every single choice, every single behavior or expression, every single word, every single thing that you do is absolutely perfect. That's very difficult to do. When you can read the musical score, you are literate. It's a lot easier. So I've never really played any of these Mozart symphony, complex piano songs. I'm not really trained like that as a musician. My musical literacy is minimal. But in order to play at the conservatory, where that is what the musicians exclusively focus upon, you must be musically literate. And you must be able to look at these, pages and pages of representation of music and be able to follow it and express it. So my form of music in this world is more like innovative and, casual and informal. I'm not playing something that has been played before. But if you want to follow the rules and play what has been played before, like, you have to learn how to be literate. And then there is a lot of freedom in that, because people spend their life fine-tuning their ability to read music and memorizing certain songs. And then they've internalized that song well enough to sit down in a performance and play it through, not only flawlessly, but with passion and with self-expression. And this is what we are attempting to do with our work going through the time fields. You want to become literate, activate your higher faculties so that you can read the musical score of time. And when you do that, it looks a lot like my artwork. So why I make my artwork, that at some point in your life, you will see or perceive this with your inner vision, and you'll be like, I know what that is. That looks just like one of Aurora's paintings. And I would be like, yes, in the background. And then you'll be like, now I know where to go. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm looking at. So again, my paintings are accurate depictions of an abstract space, like an accurate landscape. When you see it, you'll be like, I know that view. Someone's been here before and they painted a painting of it, and this is what this is. All right. The patterns that you see are not only non-random, they represent patterns in time. They represent equations of a person's life, decision-making points, and ways in which the tapestry of events and causality structures are complex complexly, that's not a right word, but woven together in levels of great complexity and how everything fits together. And you start to see that. When you can see that and you're literate, you can first you can see and then you can read, like you can interpret what you're seeing. Then it's a lot easier to navigate events. Like right now, you're flying blind, you don't know SHIT, you're making all sorts of mistakes, kind of like pecking away at the piano keyboard, and you're like, am I playing the right notes? I don't know. It's like, of course you feel the way you feel in your existence, and maybe to articulate and give uh a description to the feelings feels being like floating, like feeling at sea, feeling like questioning, insecure, sometimes cringing, and self-doubt. And it's hard because you don't really have the foundational knowledge to move through those larger currents. Self-doubt, I think, is very lovable, and it's be compassionate towards yourself, because it's like when you're driving on the road and you don't have a map, you're like, of course you're going to doubt yourself, where you're like, do I turn left, do I turn right? I literally do not know. And that's very fair. um Self-doubt, when I was talking about it, like in terms of demons and things like that, those are self-doubt voices that are more like voices of negativity that tell you like you're never going to write a song, or you're never going to paint a painting, or you're never going to whatever exercise or go to the gym, or you're never going to reach that goal. Like that's the type of self-doubt that I'm talking about. So that is an invader in the mind that basically says surrender before you even begin, never going to win, don't even try, give up, sit on the couch, or lay down and die. And that is totally not you. But when you're driving along in life, figuratively or literally, and you are like, I don't have enough information to know how to make a good choice. Like, I literally don't know. Should I turn left? Should I turn right? Where do I go? What do I do? That is, you're still in your goodness. You're still your true self. You're just in ignorance. Just have obscure mud on the windshield that is making it so that you can't see where you're going. But that's different than doubting yourself. So you must believe in yourself enough to even attempt a project, to even attempt, like, try to make a painting, try to make some music, try to achieve your goals. And then as you're achieving your goals, you also sometimes you make a wrong turn. And then you have to be in total self-love and self-compassion, because you're like, I did not know that it would look like that. I did not know that it would come out that way. Now I have to fix it. And so this is also very big. Let's say you've reached whatever age you are at, and you're wondering about whether this life that you're on right now is it going to be the life. Because if you've made one mistake and you're like, that's it, throw this life in the trash, right? Like, throw this piece of reality in the trash. I'd like a new reality, please. Like a little kid, like, like my coloring book got all messed up. Like, can I have a new coloring book? And it's like, no, like, no, work with the one you have. But all of that aside, all of that lightheartedness aside, let's delve more into these feelings, because I don't want to imprint you erroneously with all of this. Um, you can recover from mistakes. You can make it onto your path of least likelihood, even if you have made mistakes. What does that look like? If you make a mistake, what really is going on is this is the axis, central axis of this shape, and your chakra shape or your time body is tilted. Maybe it's tilted on this direction, or it's tilted on this direction, or it's wobbling in a variety of directions, but this is tilted. So in order to get onto the central core timeline, you want to get everything in your body realigned upward like this, basically realigned with God, the divine presence of pure intelligence. And if you fell out of alignment and made a mistake, you should not throw everything in the trash and just be like, well, that's it, crash and burn, or destroy yourself. You should not destroy yourself unless you're one of these evil pooty things. The evil pooties, I give you total permission to destroy yourselves. If any evil pooties are watching my video now or ever, not that I invite them into this class, but if they're watching, they're the ones who should destroy themselves. And what would that even look like? Because like they're dead. They're already dead. Like, can you be extra dead? They need to like be extra dead. Now I'm getting very silly, but no, it's true. Because the pooties are not people that are walking around like you and I, Like if we do not have food or water, we die. If they do not have, they don't, first of all, they don't eat or drink physical food or physical water. But if they didn't have their energies, like they wouldn't die. They're already dead. This is really big. They would feel mild inconvenience, which would then increase like a drug addict towards levels of severe distress at not having their energy sources that they draw off of others, but they wouldn't die because they are already dead. But if you took all of their energy, never fed them, never gave them any energy, and took all of their energy away from them, you know what would happen? They would go to entropy. And this is what we talked about last week as the goal, that the goal is not for them to be stuck on the membrane of death, burning in Christian hell, while waves and waves and waves of divine love and light flow through them as like a caustic friction, an energy of burning destruction because they can't access it. That is Christian hell. And that is actually not what I'm here to promote. So again, I think that Jesus, or the historical figure who came here as a teacher 2,000 years ago, was an exemplary figure and is an amazing soul. And I also think that there's an incredibly flawed religion that they built up around him and his persona and his life. And that's part of what I do not embrace and promote in the remembrance of that particular teacher. Like, no, I actually don't think that you should burn in hell for forever. And I talked about this last week too. There is some comfort for people that have been through very, very horrible violations to think about their violators like burning in hell for forever. That can be somewhat comforting, really. Like, what if somebody destroyed your life or destroyed like everyone in your family or everyone in your village? Then you might feel better to think of them as like, yeah, like they're going to be submerged in lava, burning for infinity. And so it's recognizing that that might be a healing thought for the survivors of profound violence. But in terms of the overall time structure, the living field of time, it's not that effective because it means that time isn't, I continually affirm to you, time isn't a live animal. And that would be like time having a pustule or some kind of an infection that was constantly in pain. That if there's this unresolved trauma, which is what the putis are, and then you have it burning forever in the friction zone of the membrane interstices that have now become a type of hell realm because there's stuff that's stuck there that's not supposed to be there, and you don't resolve that stuff, then pretty much what you have is a disease in time. You have an imbalance or an unease or an energy of life that is not flowing effectively through the entire fabric of time. So although you might feel comforted by the sense of your enemies burning in hell for forever, it's actually not that good in terms of the overarching energy structure. Nor should you do fake forgiveness, because in fake forgiveness, you're not honored as a victim or survivor, experiencer. Then it means that you just have a bunch of unresolved stuff that you haven't worked out, emotional energy from the bad things that have happened to you. So that's not fair either, because survivors are often like, I forgive them as a way of denial, sweeping it under the carpet and pretending, or as I like to say, pretend like a little kid. It's an imagination game. And that's not real healing either. So it is crucial to genuinely resolve all of these emotional energies. And that's not just a vagary or like a therapy talk, like you must resolve your emotional energies. And then like fairy dust sprinkles around me. It is math. It is math. I'm talking about actual equations like this plus this plus this plus this plus this equals this. And in order to actually get onto your central core timeline, to be an ascended master, to actually travel with your senses fully intact and make good choices in moving through time, it's essential to be able to actually see and do the math. And if you can actually see and do the math, that's like playing the symphony, you're not going to cheat yourself. So some of this forgiveness, false forgiveness, is cheating yourself when you as the victim survivor experiencer are actually owed let's say, whatever, 1,000 units of energy, because that's what someone else took from you in some way. And when you forgive them, you're like, that's okay. It's all right. Just go off on your journey. Let's say that that's what forgiveness is. That guy still owes you a thousand bucks. That's a lot. 1,000 pieces of you that you don't have because of that. Like that doesn't work. And that equation is never going to balance out. And you know what? You're going to have to get those 1,000 pieces of you back at some point. And negative time cycles happen because people do fake forgiveness, don't get their energy back. And then you have to confront that person at a certain point. And that energy literally has your name on it. Like when someone takes your dollars, they're not just taking generic energy, they're taking little pieces of you and then keeping it in their energy bank. And that is what destabilizes the pattern of the cosmos if you let it happen enough. So forgiveness is not just an airy-fairy sense or convenience. Forgiveness must include a rectification where the other person is like, I hurt you 1,000 times. Here's your energy back. And you're like, yoink, I'll take back my 1,000 pieces of self and put them back into me. That is when you then declare, now we are done. That is where your nobility comes forward, where you are willing to say, let us put this behind us and never interact again. Like, goodbye for forever, or get out of my effing life. And that's fine. That is what forgiveness really looks like. Goodbye forever. But first, get your energy back. And then you close the portals, close the interactions in time between these things, because that person is going to be moving in a wildly different direction in terms of time than you are. You are growing and evolving, and some others are not. Some are de-evolving. The Putis are in the direction of de-evolving. So evolving, growing as consciousness, becoming more intelligent, becoming more light, and moving faster. Those are all synonymous. That's the category of like getting faster. And that is what happens when you go here. That's the ultimate place of being ultimately fast, right? Some stuff is not doing that. Some stuff is moving away from here. It is moving towards slowness, stupidity, ignorance. It is losing intelligence, losing organizational information, becoming dumber, and eventually going towards eternal non-being. And this is important stuff because when you reach this central point here and you reach eternal being, you're in eternal being. You're not going to be like, oh, I was in eternal being for 5 minutes and then it ended. You're in eternal being. That means you keep going. All right. But this by definition, but the stuff that goes out of being, it doesn't just go out of being for 5 minutes. It doesn't just take a nap. It doesn't just lay down on its little nap time blanket, eat a little whatever vanilla wafer and then take a little nap, 5 minutes in entropy, and then pop up and be like, hi, I'm evil and I'm back again. No, it does not do that. It goes to entropy and it is a permanent state. It is also an eternal state. It is an eternal, restful state of non-being and non-volition and without the potential to come back into being. It's finality. And that finality is achieved very formally, not casually. You don't just casually be like, if you are cleaning up around your house, like, I don't know what to do with this thing, like this dress or whatever. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Should I throw it in the laundry? Send it to entropy. Like, as a convenience. I don't know what to do with it. Send it to entropy. And then you can't expect it to be like, where's that dress that I had? Oh, maybe I can get it back from entropy. No, if you send something to entropy, you really have to make a complete assessment. Like, you're not going to see it again. And you also have to make the assessment of timing. Timing is everything. I can leave you with another great aphorism. It's that timing is everything in your creations. So how do you choose, like, of all of the different stuff in the world to send to entropy, how do you choose what to send when? And that is part of your artistic expression within the musical score of the cosmos. And that's a big part of stabilizing reality as opposed to destabilizing reality. So I was telling you, perhaps I was telling you this or someone else, but like if you mop the floor, you pretty much mop the floor in a line. Like here's my mop and here's my floor. And I'm going to start over here at this area of the wall. And I'm just going to go across like this, just, clean the floor, right? But when I do lasagna or when I send things to entropy, I don't do that in time. I don't start at like, let's start at like year one or year 100, and then we'll just move forward to year 200, to year 300, and then forward, forward, forward. No, I don't do that at all. I do it in a very unpredictable pattern where if you can imagine, you're mopping the entire floor of time all at the same time. But like, I'm going to do like a little part over here, a little part over here, a little part over here, some over here, 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 here. I'm doing all these different places. So we'll do like 100 years ago, but then we'll also do like 500 years in the future, tomorrow, yesterday, all of these things. This is how we clean things up. So that is necessary because what we're trying to do is not a complete destruction, demolition of time, but a renovation of time where time is still inhabitable and has stability, even while it is being rectified and improved. So, yeah, no, if you only like cleaned up half of the equation over here, like the seesaw would be wildly out of balance, and then everything would go down over here. So, in order to maintain the equilibrium of time, you have to balance out all of these events in how you're doing your cleanup or how you're doing your entropy. So let's say in your assessment, you're able to be like, of this the set of totality is the set of totality. Then there's the subset of like things that should exist versus things that should not exist. And of the set that the subset of things that should not exist, of all of those, how do you choose which things go to entropy and when? And that is based entirely upon your activation of your higher faculties. It's different in every moment. And it's the essence of what it really is to do lasagna. Grab lasagna. The essence of what it is to do lasagna is to embody those patterns that are life affirming unpredictability patterns, even as you're scrubbing up or rectifying or fixing things or sending things to entropy. And it has to be unpredictable also, because you know what? Like, let's say you're a super primordial evil thing and you're like, I'm a sweat hog, I'm a super evil thing. I'm not going anywhere. And you're like, oh no, like someone's gonna come along and erase me or send me to entropy on Tuesday. You're like, I'm gonna be somewhere else on Tuesday. Like, I don't want them to entropize me. You get it? Like the unpredictability of this pattern of um um uh, de-energizing things that are aberrant is essential. You got to sneak up on it and you can't really plan it. And that's why it's not really an anticipatory or an intellectual activity. It is an embodiment activity of spontaneity. And that's also why my music is very much about spontaneity. So I want to make drawings for you. But first, let me go to some of your questions and comments over here so that I don't move past them too fast for them to be irrelevant as I move past, it kind of into the second half of our class. And you know me, I'm going to hydrate. Kim Rose, thank you for being here. Says, I think that a desire I manifested using Merkaba was manifesting as a craving and was not life affirming. It actually triggered addiction behaviors. How to reverse this? Yeah. So the words that you used, craving, that's how you can tell that it's not really something that is life affirming and part of lasagna. I would say that things that are life affirming and lasagna have a spontaneity and a sense of unself consciousness where you're doing something just very, very naturally. So when people have a healthy relationship with food, they just eat very naturally. And, so some children are this way and some adults are this way. Like you can put out anything and they'll like eat when they're hungry, choose the food that feels uplifting in the moment, stop when they've had enough. It's not an obsession or a mania. Like, there are this many cookies on the plate and I must eat all of them, or, any kind of extreme hyper focus. So craving, hyper focus, obsessions, and things like that are usually not positive things to be experiencing. And that would be also, it has to do with willpower. Craving and addiction is a hijacking of willpower. And willpower, we talked about that last week in class. It is an aspect of your anatomy, and it's a big part of what propels us through time. Making choices, like you're making choices about what is within your realm of power, what you'd like to experience. So, you will make choices about whether you want to have coffee or tea in the morning. Maybe not about whether it's sunny or cloudy outside. You might not be in control of the weather, but of the things that you control, you make those choices. And you should uh, be able to be casual, unstudied, unself-conscious in the choices that you make, and also celebratory. And another aspect of Flying Rainbow Lasagna feeling state is gratitude, celebration and gratitude. Celebration of having a body, being here in the material world. That's why I don't align with the deep philosophy, which is profound and interesting, of Gnosticism, because it says at its foundation, like, the world is a prison and you are stuck here. Like, you're SOL. You're totally out of luck. You have no good things from being here. And I'm like, no, like, this is a beautiful place to be that has been garbaged up, but there's a lot of amazing aspects of being here. So gratitude, enthusiasm, and some amount of optimism about the capacity for the world to be purged and reshaped is also a big part of it. So celebration, gratitude, and also I don't want you guys to fall into the trap of being like so grateful that you don't ask for what you really need, because like, let's say whatever, you live in a small house and you're like, I'm so grateful for my house, I'm so grateful for my house, but you actually need like 3 additional bedrooms because you don't have enough space for your whole entire family. You should be like this. You should be like, I'm so grateful for the house that I have, and I'm happy to be housed and to have a good dwelling, but I'll be even, so much more grateful and so much happier when I have an expanded house. That's really the size that my family needs now that we've all, grown, and we need more space. We don't ever think that you're asking too much. And of course, I bring this message to you as the good people who are in my class. You guys are all the generous, innately good people that are in my class. So you have a different personal training regimen than people who are like profoundly evil, who are gluttonous and have amassed huge fortunes for themselves and need to be taught like how to be generous and how to give to others, and that it is necessary to think of others much more. Like, you guys are already the good people, so you don't need to have any amount of lecture about the need to think of others or share or anything like that. Like, you guys need to be told to ask for more. So some people, if they go to the gym, they need to lose weight, they need to eat less. And some people go to the gym, they're too skinny, you need to put on muscle and you need to eat protein. That's you guys. I'm telling you guys, you need to lift heavy and you need to eat protein. You need to get stuff. So don't be afraid to ask for stuff. You're not out of gratitude if you ask for stuff. But also, being in gratitude helps energy to flow to you. Appreciating what you have helps energy to flow to you so that then you receive even more. So Kim Rose goes on to say, is it possible to get to the core central timeline without having to die and start over, having screwed up this life so many times? Absolutely. That's what I was trying to convey to you. You do not want to have to die. So no matter what you've done in your life up until this point, like, hopefully no one has made any like really indelible mistakes. You haven't, whatever, filleted any puppies or kittens or anything like that. All right. But hopefully your mistakes are smaller and more manageable, but everybody makes mistakes. And that means that you were tilted at an angle like this. What you need to do is use your willpower to get into this alignment. And that willpower that is used to get into this alignment is the same exact willpower that you access when you choose to heal your body from sickness, when you choose to make good food choices and nourish your body with positive amounts of food, when you choose to do exercises and things that are life affirming and bodybuilding. Those are all aspects of willpower. Like, literally, that you access your willpower in order to get your life on track. You also access your willpower when you're like, something, this relationship that I'm in, like a romantic partnership or a marriage or something like that, it no longer serves and I need to get out of the relationship. Or if you're in a business partnership or you're an employee and it's not good for you and you're like, I need to get out of this job and find a better job, or whatever course of education or something like that, you're like, this does not serve me. I need to change my life. So all of those things that I mentioned on the anthropomorphic level have a topic that is tied together. They all share a theme. Sorry, my connectivity is pretty bad right now. They all share a theme, and that theme is making your life better. You use your willpower to resolve to make your life better. Your life is going in a non-optimal direction. You have to make a choice and use your willpower to go in a better direction. So each one of us can have the experience of going in a non-optimal direction and then realizing it and make a choice before you hit the membrane of death. That's the key point. All right. This is your proximity sensor. Beep, beep, beep. You're getting closer, closer and closer and closer to the membrane of death. Hey, if you don't stop eating that bad food and start eating better, you're not going to be here anymore. And then the guy's going to be like, don't order out. I think I'm going to have better food. I'll make a salad. And all of a sudden he changes and moves away from the membrane of death. You get it? People do that. People do that. And what you want to do is hopefully, if you're pointed at the membrane of death, make your choices all the way over here. You don't have to get to be like that close and then finally turn. That's when people are like on their deathbed, doing really badly. And they're like, I'm thinking of quitting smoking now. It's like, you should make that choice all the way back here. All right, got it. So make those choices because literally your intuition will be talking to you far before you actually hit the membrane of death. Again, sorry, I have a lag in my computer here. So that's if I sound weird, that's why. You must begin to anticipate and make those choices before you hit the membrane of death. You have to honor your intuitions. Your intuitions are not rational. The rational mind is rational. The intuitive mind speaks to you and it doesn't have a because. It just is. And you listen, and when you listen, you get rewarded with still being alive. And also, so what I teach in this class is a lot about flying rainbow lasagna so that way you can change your DNA more towards what it was meant to be and activate your higher faculties. So that way you can actually see whether you're aiming at the membrane of death. You don't have to guess. You can actually see where you're going. You don't have to guess. So this is complex stuff. Each person that's in this class has succeeded in your ability to transform your timelines and make healthy, positive choices to the point that it has brought you to this class. And in this class, you are being given an opportunity. What's on your plate? Flying rainbow lasagna to eat or learn about, ingest some concepts known as flying rainbow lasagna. Just waiting for my connectivity to get better. Yeah. And then as you learn to flying rainbow lasagna, you spend more and more and more time on your central core timeline, pointed at your divine destination. Terrible connectivity today, sorry. Just hold on for a moment while it gets better. You spend your time pointed at your divine destination, which is yourself as God or your higher self as God in the future, and a minimal amount of your life pointed at an angle at the inevitable membrane of death from bad choices. All right. So, and again, sorry that my computer system is not working that great today, but don't throw away your life. Don't throw away your opportunity. Try to stay alive as much as you can. Even if you have made mistakes about your own health, like some people severely regret something like maybe they had their wisdom teeth taken out or some other form of amputation, please do not throw your life away because you can be restored and regenerate. And that is a big aspect of what is possible with flying rainbow lasagna. Flying rainbow lasagna allows you to not only awaken or archaeologically unearth dormant aspects of your own DNA, and you have a lot of these as foundational possibilities that are in your DNA that you haven't explored yet. So these are aspects of like profound healing, direct nourishment from the sun, restoration of lost body parts, re regeneration and rejuvenation. But you can't, you have to, well, everybody, okay, hold on a second, because also my connectivity is really bad, but a lot of your brains just skipped like 12 steps ahead. You're like, oh, good, I can fix all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, but wait, don't jump over all of these really important intervening steps that you have to learn about because you have to fix things in the right way. Yeah, yeah. You got to actually learn about DNA and actually learn about your connection to time and actually learn about your biological presence and not just try to slap things together in a fast way. So, because maybe some of you have an uncomfortable body part, you're like, oh, good, like I'll just jump 12 steps ahead and whatever, like, regenerate my gallbladder or something like that. I'm like, wait, to do things the right way, please. Okay, so let's say your body is like your house, right? You just moved into your house or you have a fixer upper, there's places that need repairs and I can totally see like, okay, like there's a leak in the ceiling over here, this part's not working that great, like there's a lot of things you want to instantaneously make better, but you shouldn't just get some plaster and stick it on the ceiling, plaster it over and be like, there you go, I put plaster on the ceiling and now that leak is perfectly fine. It's like, no, there's a problem with the plumbing. That is where that leak came from. And you actually have to fix the plumbing. And then you have to actually fix the roof. And in order to fix that, you have to actually fix something else. So you're going to start to learn that your body is a comprehensive whole, that your body parts are not individuated, even though in this world they send you to the specialist for everything. Like there's the elbow doctor, then there's the earlobe doctor, then there's the toenail doctor. Like that is not what it is like when you master your body and you master the time field. You and time are completely intertwined, and there's no separation between the health of time and the health of your own body. And also, you recognize if there's a body part that you need to regenerate or health that needs to be restored, it's a part of your whole entire presence. There's not just a way to be like, I fixed my earlobe, like I just fixed one body part. You have to fix the everything. So you can't jump just 12 steps ahead in order to do these repairs. All right. So please stick with it in order to actually become literate, in order to actually see the origins of your disease or where your body doesn't work so that you can fix it the right way. And when you fix it in the right way, also it is not going to revert. So as I've been talking about, your attention being focused on the membrane of death and sometimes being drawn off kilter, um, and then returning to the central position like this. You don't have to worry when you are profoundly healed. You don't have to worry about all of it like kind of going away in an instant and then having to be healed again. It is final and it is eternal. So that's what, like, it's worth it to go through all of the intervening steps to repair your house effectively, to do it right the first time, and to do it in a way that it stays. Okay. Let me get to a few more questions, but I really want to draw more pictures for you. All right. That's a deep thing. Let me share this with the class. Kimmers also says, my self-doubt voice sounds like my own voice, so I don't realize it is an invader. Everybody has to start realizing to filter between what actually arises from you as consciousness and what is an invader. And that is one of the most crucial aspects of creating boundaries in your body at this stage of your development. In a house, you must go through your house and you must say, what are the things in my house that are just antiques and relics that I inherited from other family members that I don't even really like whatever, a big giant China hutch or a credenza or something like that, where it's like, why do I even have this? Because it came from grandmother, right? And then there are some things that you don't really want to have in your house, but they're like government mandated. You're like, why do I have this like whatever electrical circuitry, EMF producing thing? I'm like, oh, because it's government mandated. That has to be there. And then you start to look at other things and you're like, there's a lot of things in my house that are not optimum. I didn't want them to be there. What are the things that are there from me? And then you look and you're like, well, my sketchbook, this is the real me. This has my voice. That's who I am. Or, some other very clear expression that is you, that you can make this distinction. Um, that's the hardest part of cleaning up your house, is figuring out what are the things that are in there that really emanate from you, and what are the things that you either inherited from your society, your culture, your religion, your government, or from your ancestors. And not everything that you get from your ancestors is good. Gotta wipe away any kind of like glowing glamours that might be placed upon the concept of ancestry, where maybe you think that they were like somehow noble, or because they weren't technologically advanced. Like maybe they were doing it better back then, but no, actually, no. You are probably the best and the distillation of the best of your ancestors. I don't think that they have actually very much to give to us at all. They might have known some tips of the trade, like in terms of agriculture and animal husbandry, but I don't think that they were actually very evolved as a soul. And I think that you're more evolved as a soul. So just because you have grandmother's China hutch does not mean that you have to carry her tendency for diabetes or her worldview or her osteoporosis or something like that. You can get rid of all of those things. And so voice of invaders, voice of self-doubt and criticism. Sometimes it might sound like mom or dad. Sometimes it might sound like a teacher. Sometimes it might sound like, whatever, a government or a religious authority. What would Jesus do? It can sound like all these different types of things. And maybe you have internalized it so much that you think it is your own voice, but really start to take an assessment about whether it's you or something else that is an imposter, or whatever we would call it, a hijacker. Okay, iPhone is here and says, if we send a person to entropy and they are still living where part goes to entropy, I'm unclear. Is it just the event, the soul? Okay, so got to hydrate to be able to talk about this. You guys are not ready yet to be like the cosmic cleaning service or cosmic law enforcement, where you actually send entire creature people to entropy. And I think that it's fair to say that you can work up to that, but that is a huge level of personal responsibility. And that's like trying to play a symphony, and you need to work on your musical formalism before you do anything like that. Okay. I would say that it is much, much better at this moment in your development to work on sending characteristics in yourself to entropy, and also to work on sending negative time edifices to entropy instead of the physical people. I'm sure we can all think of people in our lives who are not our favorite people. Be polite. They're not my favorite person. But until you know how to scrub the floor in cosmic flying rainbow lasagna patterns, you don't know if it's time to remove that person from reality yet. Got it? Like even whatever, the most profoundly evil miscreant in organized crime or government or whatever, that you know about. Um, uh, you're like, the world would be a better place without them. I'm sure they would. I'm sure it would. But I'm telling you, you got to remove people from time in just the right way so that you do not F up time. And it's a huge responsibility to do so. So you cannot do that yet until you learn, grow, evolve, become highly educated, and activate your higher faculties. All right. I can do stuff like that. And because I am literate, can see and know what I'm doing, and I'm going to take the responsibility for the things that I do. Until you're at that point, please don't try to entropize a person, take a person out of reality, because you're like, oh, my boss annoys me. Maybe I should send them to entropy, get rid of my boss. That, I don't know if you should do that, really, to tell you the truth. And entropy, as I've told you, this is an indelible, unrecoverable choice. Like imagine when you delete something on your computer that you cannot get that file back. Don't do that casually. All right. You have to get really good before you start doing that. But if your boss annoys you, what you could do is entropize all of the time possibilities where you interact with your boss and where they are annoying, where they're draining energy from you. When your boss is draining you towards the membrane of death, you entropize those time edifices And you know what that might end up looking like? Maybe it might look like getting a different job where you're not going to be drawn over towards the membrane of death. Because as you get greater 2020 vision inside, you start to learn like, oh, well, maybe the problem is not that the boss exists, but that I'm in the wrong line of work and I should not be interacting with that person. That is sometimes what you learn. So please file away that wisdom too. Please don't try to read above your comprehension level or lift a weight that is outside of your muscle and ability level. You are not ready to do that yet. Okay, good. Let me draw stuff for you. Let's draw what happens when a person dies. Let's draw what happens. Get to whiteboards. Here we go. Okay, so drawing makes me sigh in comfort because talking about erasing people is an anthropomorphic uh, effort. We're waiting for the pencil to come up. The realm of anthropomorphism is too fallible and it makes me feel really uncomfortable. Because what if I said, well, you should send your boss to entropy if he doesn't give you a raise? But you should not always send your boss to entropy if he doesn't give you a raise. Like some, but not all of the time. You should send your boss to entropy if he does not give you a raise. Like it is not a math that is accurate when I describe it in those words. And then it makes me feel really uncomfortable because I'm like, well, I don't want to teach you the wrong thing and have everybody going around thinking that they're going to send their boss to entropy because they did not get the raise that they were promised. That might not be the correct equation in your life. So the answer is you have to learn how to do your math very accurately and effectively. I cannot draw and talk at the same time. It's just too hard. Wow. And then that just happened. I don't know why that went like that. That was definitely unfair. Yeah, let's get this correct. Good. That was hard. There's another bad thing. These lines are not working. I'm complaining and angry. Do you know that it is impossible to draw? Did you see that? I don't know if you saw that, but that was really unfair. Okay, let's try it again. Wow. Clap hard for Tinkerbell and this might work. Okay, I think that's as close as I'm going to get. It's not really what I'm trying to draw at all. It's as close as I'm going to get. That is totally not right. I hope that you're laughing. Life. Okay, that's as good as we are going to get. I do not know what is the problem. Really, literally do not know what is the problem. What do you think is so funny? Get mad. Okay, so what I'm trying with so much effort here is to draw two overlapping lives. And then I also have to draw dough. That was unfair. That was so unfair. No, that was really unfair. That's it. The machines are out to get me. That's it. Machines have become sentient and they are against me. Okay. That was hard. Let's switch and let's talk about something else. I'm so unbelievably annoying. Like I couldn't even take it. I'm so unhappy right now. No, and then something just happened over here that I have to erase. Okay, now let's just do this. Good. Now let's do this. Okay. Yep, I don't want this. I want this. Okay, so first of all, let's imagine that this is a representation of my red sculpture that I hold up for you in class all the time. Usually you see that sculpture from this perspective, right? As if you're looking at it from the side. But this is what happens when we look at the sculpture from as if the bottom is tilted up. So this is looking at the vortex as if we're at the bottom edge. And all of these here, I'll draw it for you. All of these timelines are swirling, swirling, swirling inward towards that dot. And that dot is singularity. That dot is this dot up here. Okay. This is very much like an analog record, the type of record that actually comes from the 20th century, old technology that is actually pretty amazing. In an analog record, you really just have one extremely long spiral groove, and that groove holds information that is the music of a band that you might enjoy, and it continually spirals and spirals and spirals until it gets to the end of the final song on the album, and that's right there. Okay, so this could be any record that you like. It could be Led Zeppelin, it could be Jimi Hendrix, could be anything. The first songs on the album start at the periphery, and then the more that you play the songs, the more that they get to the middle of the record, and then they spiral inward towards the very, very last song that's at the center. That is exactly what is happening in your journey around the time field. You are starting at the periphery, so that's like over here, and then you're swirling and swirling and swirling closer and closer and closer until you get all the way up to that wormhole. When you have two overlapping lives, have an area of coincidence. That coincidence does not mean a random occurrence. Coincidence in math means a place where two things meet or overlap. So here I am highlighting in blue the areas where the green life and the red life, that is terrible, meet and overact. I am speaking like I'm very calm, but I'm actually very mad. And the computer is naughty, naughty computer, naughty computer, bad naughty computer. Okay, so that area that I have roughly attempted, in spite of the naughty computer's efforts, to highlight in blue is the area of coincidence where these two lives meet and overlap. Your attention is like the needle on the record. Let's make a giant yellow dot for here. Your attention is, this thing is glitching so badly. All right, here's needle on the record. Over here, I just drew a yellow dot. That is where your consciousness is. So before I write that dot, here you have a bunch of potential information. This is a bunch of potential information. That's your DNA, all right? This exists as potential for events, thought forms, body shapes, behaviors in reality. But you get to make choices about how you play or express yourself within this milieu. That means maybe you like this song a lot and you're going to be like, I'm going to play this song a lot. I'm going to rewind, play it again, rewind, play it again, rewind, play it again, right? Maybe there are some songs that you're going to pick up the needle on the record and skip it and bring it over to here because you don't like those songs. Your DNA is an abstract field of potential. And you are the musician that is choosing how you play the music within that field of potential. So there are some things, some characteristics or events that you might really emphasize. And then there are some characteristic events or sounds or body forms that you might diminish or never play. Your needle of awareness is your attention. And that is where you are focusing your attention, like the focal point of your eyes. When you focus your attention on a series of events, you are literally vivifying those events with your attention. Literally, the needle of awareness plays upon the record of your life. And that is a lyric that I wrote for a song, and it's a very, very good song. So this is from the bottom up. Now let's show you in the side view. Like here is needle of awareness over here. Or maybe we're going to switch timelines. We're going to move it over to here. That is where you're focusing on. So there are different events happening in those two positions. You might move in space-time, like here you might live in Florida, here you might live in New York. Those are two different space-time places. But what is happening is here you are experiencing a quality of existence, right? A series of events, what your life is like, a quality of emotion. And here you're experiencing a different context. You live with different people, you have different events. And here you are closer to being your true self. Here, it's not about whether you live in a humid environment or something like that, and it just whatever, it doesn't suit your hair texture. You don't live with good people. You're not at the best job. You're not eating the best food. You're not in an optimized position in your life. And here you are closer to the path of least likelihood. You are closer to a more ideal and optimized song of your life. You are constantly refining your consciousness and moving closer and closer to this position where it's optimal. All right. And you're this red guy, but so is this green guy. This green guy started out over here and optimized their life, moved over to here, and then optimized their life and moved over to here. All right. That's the direction that all of us are moving. But the key point to comprehend is that you only have a certain area of coincidence where both of you are sharing the road or sharing the path of life. And that is, get a color you can see on this screen, because yellow is too hard to see. That is right here. I'll make 2 dots. Here are you two guys sharing the road of life. All right. And remember, time moves upward in this direction. So as you're moving upward in time, this guy is going to be moving towards this purple line. And this guy is going to be moving towards this purple line. And this is the membrane of death. This is the boundary beyond which they will not be experiencing the same time together. Ken is really naughty and the computer is really naughty. So that didn't come out right. Can we make it better? I don't know. We'll have to see. This. No, that did not work at all. Just laugh. Just laugh, please. Okay. Kind of made the shape I was hoping to make there. Those black lines. Those black lines, that's the membrane of death. All right. So let's use these two as an example from my own life. I am the red area over here, and my cat is the green area over here. And for a certain amount of time, we lived together in this area of coincidence in the time field. And we moved forward in time, moving in this direction in the time field, until one day my cat hit the membrane of death. And what that means is, now I'll choose that yellow color again. My cat moved over to here. Optimizing, moving closer to purple. But beyond this meant that that's no longer within my red life. This, where I'm tracing with my pencil here, that is the edge of my life. Her needle of awareness moved beyond the edge of my boundaries. Her equation of her life moved beyond the area within which that could be contained by equations that also contain me. And that is why I experienced her as dying, having a death. What happened was, this is more than 10 years ago, so like it's not that fresh or terrible or whatever, but of course it was still sad. She went out onto the front porch one night, and she was like an old fat cat, like not a lean like runner or anything like that. But like I would let her go outside on the front porch, and I let her go outside on the front porch. And then a second later, I heard a scuffle. And I opened up the front door, and I saw either maybe it was a feral cat or another animal, like someone had came along and bit her and chased the other animal away. But she was injured and she ended up dying. Okay, so that's the sad story. But so to her consciousness, from her viewpoint, she did not die. From her viewpoint, I died, and that's me over here. This is deep stuff. From her perspective, I went out one day, as I customarily do, in my car to drive to the store, and got hit by a Mack truck on the highway and never came home. Our consciousnesses both optimized. We both moved closer to the ideal purple timeline. But in doing so, we focused our needle of awareness away from one another. And so, from my cat's perspective, where she is still alive on one of these many multiple timelines around here, I never came home one day, and one of my friends, had to adopt her. She went to live with, my friend who's an animal lover, took her in, and continued to live and become herself until this is a good story now. She got onto her purple timeline. And then this is my cat learning how to be an ascended master. All right. And then this is my cat going back here to like divinity, God, self-remembrance. All right. And that takes as long as it takes for a cat. Now here is me. Here's me. Oh, I'm getting onto my ascended Aurora timeline. Here I am moving on my perfect timeline. Oh, and here I am getting also to God's self-remembrance. And this is the place where I will be reunited with or rejoin with the consciousness that is my cat. But I will not be rejoining with my cat, who was this version down here. She was kind of, overweight, had a lot of trauma, a little bit of an eating disorder. She was a good cat, though. I'm glad that I had her. But this cat down here that had emotional baggage and everything is not who she is as an ascended master cat. She's gone through all of this stuff on the purple timeline where she has grown and evolved. And in her version of reality, I'm dead. I'm in some heaven somewhere, right? Or whatever, afterlife or non-existence or whatever. But she had to express emotional resilience, get on with her life, move on, learn, grow, help people, be helped by people, and then remember that she's God. And I had to do the same thing, but on a completely different timeline. I had to come over here and I had to, grieve the loss of my cat. And then I got my dog. And then I went through all of these experiences. And then here we are together here. And then we're about to go through this ascension portal. And when we do, I will rejoin with her. I'm not the same person that I was back here 10 years ago. I have grown and evolved and changed. And this is a really good example because it's not just my cat, it's everyone. It's everyone that but I have to say who's a good person because we're not in a pristine system. Because some people that are going to go to entropy. Just, not everyone is going to be there at ascension because some things or people are de-evolving into non-existence, and that is correct. So I can't just give you a blithe pronouncement and say, everyone, you're going to get to infinity. You're going to be an ascended master. Wait, let me really act this out. You're going to be an ascended master, and you're going to be feeling so great, and you're going to be reunited with everyone that you've ever known as an ascended master. That is actually not true. Not everybody makes it. But didn't you say it's an inevitability, Aurora? I'm a smart student in your class, and I just heard you say earlier it's baked into the fabric of who I am, and it's inevitability. Yes, smart student, it is an inevitability if you have enough chances. If you have enough time playing at the piano keyboard of life to try out every single possible different iteration then you will, at a certain point, come to the conclusion of the correct central core timeline and grow and evolve. But there are a lot of the resistant consciousnesses. Like I jokingly call them the sweat hubs or the occupiers of the membrane of death. Those are not evolving consciousnesses. They are not going closer to the central core timeline. They are moving away from it. So this is big stuff. Your DNA is given to you as a field of potentials, and it's up to you how you play that music, how you play that field. Some musicians go wildly off key, go all the way into the membrane of death, and keep on going away from God and just smashing themselves to smithereens. And some of us grow and evolve and become more closer to ascension, and then eventually become perfected and we become refocused into who we're really supposed to be. Hold on a second, because Cheeky just arrived and she's over here making herself known. So we're going to just press pause for a moment so we can say hi to Cheeky. Hi, hi, hi. Good job. Everybody loves you, and you're a very, very good dog. You're super. You're amazing. Okay, good job. And we'll see. Cheeky's on a diet. I didn't know if we're going to have any bribes today because she's on a diet. Um, but not everyone who's in your world is going to be on the timeline of becoming an ascended master. And that's big because in the victimized consciousness, like the part of you that might have been deeply hurt and you kind of want to see your enemies and abusers like burn in hell forever, it's very, very hard to try to imagine celebrating them as ascended masters in heaven with you. Be like, oh, like that's that guy that abused me. And now here he is in heaven as an ascended master. Like you won't have to do that. I want you to know you will not have to meet them, encounter them, or interact with them. Because really, the people that are doing evil things like that are not moving towards eternal being at this level of the time diagram. They are de evolving and going to entropy. And that is a different place on the time diagram. It is a no place. So they're not going to be there. They are going into non-being. And that is a huge amount of what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. And yes, you should learn more about what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is and master these patterns before you try to send your abusers to entropy. Even though I'm very, very much on victims' rights, and you should come to resolution and be free. But sending someone or something to entropy, like I said, is very, very permanent. So it's not something to be done blithely or just as a matter of convenience or just as out of emotional explosion. Like you have to make sure that you're doing the math correctly. All right. Make sure you're doing the math correctly and make sure that you've got the right person that is genuinely the guilty party. Just make sure that you're sending them to entropy. All right. So just trust in me as a teacher that you will be empowered to do that, but you have to do it correctly. Okay, good. And also please know, like you will gain your empowerments in appropriate increments that are in alignment with your reading level, your comprehension level, and your ability level. Because I wouldn't expect any one of you to clean up, the entirety of human society and all the psychopathology that is here. Like that's a big, big job. And you have to have 20/20 vision and be able to see every single little tiny detail and know what you're doing. So that way you don't throw away stuff that's important. Like you don't want to throw away the treasure as if it's trash and then send it to entropy and then be like, oh, no, I really regret that because that was the wrong thing to do. And now I can't get that stuff back from entropy. Got it? So I don't expect you to clean up the entirety of human history and all psychopathology that is in existence on your planet. Okay. And I would say that the most important thing is to begin in your own body and also in, certain key relationships in your own life, but also make certain that you are seeing clearly and not merely acting out of your trauma. And that's important there. Okay. So just don't worry. Like your empowerment will happen and it will happen in the correct time and you'll do it in the right way. Good. Flying Rainbow Lasagna is not meant to be like the scrub brush of the universe. It's not meant to be like toilet scrubbing. I really want you to know this. Maybe again, you're in discomfort, maybe you have disease, maybe you've been violated and you want to really like kind of get the dirtiness off of you. But whatever it is, flying rainbow lasagna is so much more than a cosmic scrub brush. Really, really. It is about much more than a weapon or a tool for like destroying your enemies. Even though I'm having to use it as a cosmic scrub brush, I'm having to be the cosmic cleaning lady. I'm having to annihilate a lot of enemies just so that I can have, basic existence and basic levels of personal sovereignty and freedom. But flying rainbow lasagna was actually meant for a much more elevated purpose. Like if this is a beautiful paintbrush or whatever, like we can use it to stab somebody in the eye, but it really is made for something much more beautiful than that. That really is about painting a beautiful reality, being finely calibrated, and having divine connection and divine experiences. Okay. So it's actually my intention as a cosmic protector of this planet to give you that experience so that you don't always have to be scrubbing the cosmic toilet, so that you can be like, take time to learn about yourself, grow, become properly calibrated, make things that are beautiful. That is what I really intend for you to do with flying rainbow lasagna. But I also recognize like we're in this extremely uncomfortable position and a lot of garbage in the world that when you live in that type of situation, you're like, there's maggots everywhere. Like, can we just clean up? I'm like, yes, I recognize that your priority is in cleaning up maggots because this place is gross. But also, I want you to know flying rainbow lasagna is not just the maggot scooping tool. Gross, right? And our lives are much more than just scooping up cosmic maggots. Again, gross, right? Our lives are about a much, much more exalted level of being. So I will say this, leave the maggot scooping to me for right now. All right. I am doing a lot of scooping and removal of garbage for our whole entire planet and in ways that will empower and unburden each one of you. And you can focus on the things that are your own individuated levels of growth and personal evolution. And hopefully you won't have to be spending a lot of your time flying rainbow lasagna, sending giant buckets of maggots to entropy because it's such a gross world. Hopefully I will be able to do a lot of the cleanup first so that you have experience of lasagna in much, much cleaner waters. Okay. So let's say it in that sense. So switching tracks though, switching tracks from having to clean up gross residual consciousnesses or echoes into a comprehension of what death is. Because I think I just gave you like the deepest information about what death is. Death is a refocusing of awareness. And when your awareness refocuses out of the area of coincidence, it is as if you died to the viewpoint of the other person, but they are not dead. My cat is not dead. She is dead on my timelines, but she is alive on other timelines. But I am not alive on those timelines. We do not overlap. And none of this is to go into denial in terms of grief. Like this happened more than 10 years ago. So I've processed my grief. So I'm not like breaking down in tears. But when she first died, it was very sudden and she was, very important to me. And I cried a lot. It was very sad. And grief is, profoundly destabilizing and very, very difficult. So I don't want people to use this lesson just as a way of going into denial and not really feeling those deep feelings of grief. Because when her timeline and my timeline go apart, there's a lot of emotional energy. Like we had quantum entangled, and the feeling bad feelings of grief, what you're really feeling is quantum disentanglement. Like people are moving apart, and then it's like the Grand Canyon. I'm on one edge of the Grand Canyon, she's on the other end of the Grand Canyon, and we do not connect together anymore at all. And the grief is really that feeling of your energy quantum disentangling as you're moving in wildly different time directions. So the key point there is your loved ones exist on an alternative timeline, but you are not sharing that timeline with them. That timeline is a real timeline, not just an afterlife echo, not just a San Junipero or a fantasy or some kind of construct that happens on the moment of death where people are able to kind of like work through their agitations and then go into a sense of peace. It's an actual viable timeline where they actually live. So not just the fevered dreams of your cells as they are hypoxic, dying without enough oxygen, and in the last throes of, like violent death throes in your brain and cerebral structures. No, that you actually switch your consciousness to viable timelines that are in different areas of the time field where you are genuinely alive. And the key point is when you do that and you switch to those better timelines, you're growing and evolving. So the person that you were is not who you are eternally. I'm not the same person that I was 10 years ago. Would my cat recognize me? I think she would. Like, I look like the same person, but I've learned a lot. I am wiser and I have grown, with my emotions. So please know, not 100% of people will make it to that eternal level of being. So you will not re-encounter your rapists or whatever, Hitler. We always use him as the example of like the worst person ever. You will not be re-encountering serial killers and psychopathological murderers and things like that. They don't exist in the world of ascended mastery. Isn't that amazing? And also people that will make it there that you've known and loved will be in a very evolved and elevated state, different from the person that we knew. So one good example from life is I had a friend from Woodstock who definitely had substance abuse issues and a couple of like driving while intoxicated cases against her, and then like got a cancer diagnosis and died very suddenly. And I'm sure I will re-encounter her in the realm of ascended mastery, like at that infinity point, but she will not be that person. She will be a together person. She was not very together in life. She was all over the place, made a lot of mistakes. She was not the most refined, best version of herself. But the version that I will re-encounter will be like the most loving, most evolved, most responsible, most adept person that she could possibly be. And actually, I mean, we can use that as an example too. From my perspective, she died suddenly of cancer. From her perspective, she would see me as I moved to California again, maybe car wreck on the journey of moving to California or something like that. But she would just be like, oh, like Aurora died and she's not here anymore, and now I'm living like still in upstate New York. Sorry if my words didn't portray that effectively, but my friend would still be alive on her timelines, and she would know me as the person that I was like 15 years ago. And I wasn't a bad person 15 years ago, but I hadn't made all of the artwork that I made now. I hadn't become a musician, I hadn't done a lot of things. And when I re-encounter her, she will know me as the person who went on to make a lot of artwork, a lot of music. I fulfilled my artistic dreams in many ways, and also became very active in my community and being a mentor and leading others. And I was a very introspective artist 15 years ago. I never left my studio. I never went anywhere. Yeah, no, she knew me as like a very introverted person. So yeah, what I'm trying to say with all of that is there is an ascended master version of many different people that we know who died, and they won't be unrecognizable, but they'll be very different. They'll be a different version of self. They'll be their best version of self. And that's something that you have to hold the door open for. Like, what would that person be like? What would my cat be like after growing and evolving? What would I be like after growing and evolving? What would my friend be like after growing and evolving? And that's who you would actually be encountering when you re-encounter that person or those people. So I hope that that's not confusing, because I don't want you to be thinking that the re-encountering at infinity is anything like Christian heaven. It's not. The concept of Christian heaven is held as a behavioral control mechanism, a dangling carrot for people to be constantly working towards, like, got to get to heaven, got to get to heaven. So Christian heaven is also presented as a type of stasis like a place where things never really change or grow. And that is somewhat truthful. Like after when you are dead, you are dead. You're not growing anymore. Like that's just the truth of it. Like you get to the membrane of death and you have your assessment clipboard, but that is the level of growth that you can experience pretty much through retrospection, looking back on yourself. So artists sometimes have a retrospective. You make an exhibit of everything that you've ever painted, and then you look at it and you're like, wow, look, I made all of this stuff. But that is not the same as having the opportunity to then make more stuff after you have your retrospective. You're like, you get your perspective from dying, having your clipboard, seeing your math, looking at everything you've ever done. But that is not the same as going on to make more paintings. All right. So ideally, we have assessments while we are still alive. You don't only have to change your life by remembering death. You can have life altering in a positive way events and insights that happen that radically change your path, help you to comprehend what, give you perspective and insight on what you have experienced, and help you to make good choices that bring you closer towards the central core timeline and more towards the person that you would like to be and who you are as an ascended master. So also the rules for being a walk-in have radically changed within the past 20 years. Just please know, like, death is really not optimum and really not desirable and is not the best way to go through this whole entire process. Much, much better for you to comprehend that you're heading in the wrong direction, make a realignment while you're still alive, avoid the process of having to die. Death is kind of like the last resort. And when that happens, it's kind of like, okay, like the very worst has happened, but you're gonna, pull out of the nosedive and find a way to turn this into something that is more fulfilling and life affirming. But it's not necessary and it's not desirable. And definitely in our generation, since the invention of flying rainbow lasagna, not only is death an aberration that you shouldn't be experiencing, like you now have a much better option than having to go through these constant wrong notes and negative time cycles. In fact, because you can fly rainbow lasagna now, it means literally like you can reconnect to divinity, reconnect to your higher faculties. So I talked to you about, like, you have the needle on the record, and it's playing the song of life. What if you don't like some aspect of your life? Pick up the needle and change to a different song. That's an act of willpower, and that is very much what flying rainbow lasagna is. It is saying with flying rainbow lasagna, not only can I change timelines to a better optimum timeline, but also what if I don't like anything that's on the menu? What if I look at all the timelines and all the possible moves on the chessboard and I'm like, I don't like any of these, all bad menu options. I'm like, I am going to flying rainbow lasagna and I am going to write a new recipe. And I'm going to send it to the chef. And I'm going to say, please cook this for me, because this is what I actually want to experience in a timeline. So your DNA is a potential, and identical twins do not achieve identical diseases. That is what humans call epigenetics. You might have a potential for cancer, but you do not actually have to manifest and experience that potential. It is largely determined by your feeling state, your belief system, your behaviors, your thoughts, your diet and habits of what you ingest, what you're exposed to, where you go in life. So even identical twins, although they have the same potentials for cancer inside of them, they do not always experience the same level of disease. And that is because of the phenomenon of epigenetics. Epigenetics is how you play the musical score or which songs you emphasize on a record. This might not be relevant because everybody does streaming these days, but way back in the old days, either circle records like this or, a CD was a slight upgrade. But if there were songs that you didn't like you had to skip over them. Nobody does this anymore because everybody has just like a playlist where you just take the songs that you like, put them into your aggregate playlist, and then just press play on the playlist. But a long, long time ago, artists would actually create an album with a bunch of songs in order that was meant to take you on a journey. And you might have like a slow song, a fast song, a medium song, a very fast song. And maybe you're like, maybe you're not feeling like listening to a slow song. You need something with more like energy. Like, oh, the song is so slow. Skip it. Pick the needle up and skip over it. And then put the needle back down onto the song that is what you actually want to listen to. So, yeah, there was the need for the listener to be much more engaged with manually choosing which songs to emphasize and which songs to skip. In your DNA, you can emphasize the songs of health and freedom and vitality, and you can minimize the songs that are about disease. As I was saying, you can emphasize in your DNA the songs that are about genetic freedom. That is what flying rainbow lasagna is. It is not free for all. That means it is not just a complete blenderizing of reality. We're just going to throw everything together and have every piece of reality touch on every other piece of reality. That is not what we are doing. We bring together formerly divergent, far distant areas of time space in a very, very selective pattern. And that's what the DNA dance is, and that's what the rearrangement of time is. So when you're doing flying rainbow lasagna, what you're really focusing on is repatterning time and repatterning DNA. And you do that from your own body. So any of these questions that people come up with, I love respect your questions, so I don't want to shoot you down, but you're asking from a wrong direction about enterprising other people and really having an impact on other people's lives. What you really want to do is lasagna with your own body. And by doing that, you become a beacon of cosmic truth and you send out rearrangement waves through the cosmic infrastructure. You lasagna and you send out these beautiful waves through the people around you, the trees, your neighborhood, people that you have business dealings with. You are in your cosmic right in emitting this lasagna energy, and it moves through, it propagates through the other organisms around you, and it transforms the fabric of time, and it transforms those organisms. It's not the same as saying like, okay, like you and you. I don't like your face. I'm gonna erase you. Like that's my lasagna dance. Like that is actually not your lasagna dance. The lasagna dance is very focused on your connection to divinity, the world of pure light, and the world of correct math. And when you stay focused on those things inside of you and emitting that perfect clarity, that is how relationships change or shift. And that is also when you're at that highest level of perfection, that is how entities or organisms can enter or leave this world. So that would only be, sorry, I got distracted by a distraction machine that just came through. Ah, let me turn it off. Yeah, okay, good. That would only be when you're at these highest levels of artistic achievement. So when you're in your most divinely connected state, when you're in your most lasagna and free state, when you're totally accurate, like imagine following all of these little patterns that I have printed on my dress so accurately and so perfectly with your DNA. That is when you are accurate and powerful enough to erase a person from existence. And it's mostly not being in an ego state. So in your ego state, you might be like, oh, I don't like my boss. Like, can I send them to entropy? And that's fine. We can joke about that. But really, when you're getting up into these higher levels of reality, it's not about like inconvenience or vendettas or things like that. Like you are literally following the correct patterns of the divine cosmic infrastructure, not just your own whims. And that's where the power comes from. So I will give a fictional allegory from the book Stranger in a Strange Land, which of course this is never a complete endorsement of the writer or their writings or anything like that. But that's a good book and it's worth delving into. The premise of the fictional novel is a human baby was dropped off on Mars and raised by Martians, then recollected by humans about 30 years later. So human being, but raised in a totally non-human, non-cultural, not acculturated here. And that guy's named Valentine Michael Smith. And he comes back to Earth and he has all of these different superpowers because he hasn't been given all of the cultural limitations and projections of people around here. And he's trying to kind of like teach and uplift humanity about stuff. All right. So he does a bunch of weird stuff and kind of starts a cult, right? This is a fictional story. Just stick with me. And at a certain point, the government sends a bunch of like SWAT team guys to his house where he's running this cult. And the SWAT team guys get out of the van with their machine gun rifles and they're about to go over to him, and he just makes them disappear. And their people around him are shocked because they thought he's all like messenger of peace. And they're like, what is going on? And he's like, oh yeah, I sense that there was a great wrongness there. There was something that wasn't supposed to be in existence there. And so I just unmade all of them. And that was kind of that's kind of at the level of what I'm talking about. So it's a fictional allegory, but that's at the level that you do that type of work. Um, I mean, truly, he unmade those particular SWAT team members because they were on his property and they were coming after him. But it was a very, what is the word? Like perfunctory type of violence, not like a blood gushing Rambo vengeance, not very emotionally driven, but very dispassionate, I think is a good word. It's just the math. The guy did the math and he checked out the math of these SWAT team people and the equipment they were carrying. And all of those things were aberrations that were not supposed to be in existence. And so in his total clarity and innocence, he just unmade them out of existence and they popped out of existence. Okay. That's the level of what I'm talking about. If you were to unmake or entropize a person or a group of people, you would have to do it from a level of dispassion, not personal whimsy, definitely not like survival brainstem type of stuff. You would have to do it because from the sense of reorganizing the cosmic infrastructure, because that's what you're doing. You're literally reweaving the tapestry of time, and you don't do that type of work casually or without consideration or without an extreme amount of expertise. So don't do it until you're an expert and focus on becoming a lasagna clarity beacon in your own body. Just you can't go wrong with diminishing any cancer signals that are in your own body. All right. Diminish that. Don't carry those signals and don't send them out to others. Another big one is even just reconsidering death as the escape mechanism from here. Because I'm here to tell you, death is not the exit. You do not get out of here through dying. And that is very similar to the comedic, brilliant movie Groundhog's Day. That guy died a million times. He died accidentally. He died on purpose. He unalived himself. And he found out that he kept on coming back and that death was not the answer. And you know, it was the answer? Personal evolution. All right. Even though I know that's a bit pat and prosaic and that movie, you know, is not a complete perfect overlay or example for what we're doing on the higher dimensional levels. Because there are some things like with that guy in that movie, in Groundhog's Day, he wasn't a bad character. Like he wasn't just ignorant, he was cruel and very bad in a lot of ways. And he went through a lot of suffering through his many different iterations and then eventually became good and then was able to grow and evolve and work to help other people. I actually think that's a flawed proposal. I think that the suffering of the multiple iterations actually doesn't turn people from bad to good at all. I think it simply exacerbates who you are, and it does exhaust and wear out those of us who are good because it's hard to like hold up your muscle power, like keep going, and you know, maintain your posture amidst all of these things that are trying to drag you down. So I don't think that the suffering or the endurance of what you have to go through is life affirming in any way. But I do think that the way to get out of here is through personal commitment, self-attainment, making choices to grow and to evolve, accreting more light, growing more wisdom. And that can be defined for beings who aren't actually real beings, who have non-existence, as wisdom about their own true nature of non-existence. But if you really wanted to know how to disappear a SWAT team in its wrongness, what you would have to do is communicate to it on a molecular level how wrong it is for it to exist, and to tell each one of them, like, you should not be this person, this job should not exist, you made a wrong turn all the way back there on your timeline, you should have become a pastry maker or whatever, a marathon runner should not be here standing here with a gun in front of me, should have made much different choices down the timeline. The fact that your consciousness is in this body on this timeline sitting in front of me holding a gun means that you have made irretrievably wrong choices, and you now need to go into a non-being state because it is irretrievable for you to be able to get onto your corrected timelines. Again, this is like very, very advanced stuff. So let me get to the rest of your questions and comments. Then I will have to take my dog for a walk, and we'll all have to let our brains, like, take off your girdle and let your brains go free. Interesting. Someone was saying something about the regret of plastic surgery. Mary Ellen also says, that was a really good explanation and visual. Nish had posted a video on a person who changed timeline. They went to a local restaurant for years and it was all different. Didn't know the owners, but they knew him. So I'm trying to figure out this situation. Was it a parallel life that converged? Okay. So right now in our world, it is so difficult to make an assessment about what's going on. Was it parallel timeline convergence? Was it Mandela effect? Or this is what's going on right now. Was it mental manipulation through nanotech? Because minds are being rewritten right now through insertion of artificial software and hardware programs into the human biology, and people's minds are not their own. So if we were in a totally pristine system, I would be like, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe, timelines are splitting apart and converging, and people are jumping from Bernstein to Berenstain to Berensteiny. They're jumping all over the place. And I would validate a lot of that. But I think that what's happening in our world right now is a lot of mental manipulation, where there's a lot less supernatural stuff going on than people think is going on or express is going on. But what is happening is being affected mentally, emotionally, and cognitively by tiny machines in the brain that are making people feel a bunch of weird stuff. So it's kind of like, if somebody puts drugs into the food or the water that you're eating, it's like, you might be having profound timeline changes, or you might just be on drugs. That I think that is kind of more what is going on right now. Like, I don't know if we're having a lot of these exotic things that people are saying is happening, but there's definitely some kind of neurological manipulation that is going on. Kim Rose says, I saw the videos of you in 2021 when you were severely attacked and on the run. How did you recover and stop the attacks? Did you ever consider ending your mission here? I never thought about ending my mission here. And sometimes my mantra that time was simply to stay alive. I never considered dying. I always knew that I was not meant to die. And that was actually a very critical point of these enemies who were attacking me, but who were also really attacking time itself, to see if they could rewrite the narrative in a way that is completely distorted. So I'm an eternal being and I'm not supposed to die. And they tried many, many times to rewrite that narrative and to make it a story where I would die. And I refused to accept those narratives. So it was a very perilous time. And there were many times when all that I did was focus my energy on staying alive. And really incredibly difficult. What I did in order to fight for freedom and make it to where I am now is I had to learn how to do more than just stay alive, how to fight against each one of the things that they were using to diminish or imprison me. And so there were a variety, everything from what is known as electroceuticals. I didn't have that word then, but now I've learned about this. That is when they can use a frequency to beam in energy at you that makes you feel as if you have ingested a drug. And so one of the things they were doing was incapacitating me through beaming frequencies at me that would make me feel, tranquilized or drugged or mentally clouded in some way. So one of the first things that I had to learn to do was how to clear out my synapses so that way their fake drugs couldn't tranquilize me. All right. Basically everything that they threw at me, I had to learn how to contravene it. And I used all of my lasagna activities and abilities, or I augmented and gained a new ability. So sometimes I had to learn how to manipulate time in order to undo what they were doing to me. They did a lot of things with genetic manipulation. Some of it was directly, but some of it was indirectly through the that they were doing to the rest of the world in 2021, because our DNA does have a reciprocity with other living DNA bearing objects in the world. And so I was obliquely attacked and also obliquely mentally attacked through the signals that a lot of other people were carrying in their minds that they would beam into my mind. So I first, basically I did every single type of thing that I could to initially just work with shielding, creating protective shields around myself and kind of running or escaping or trying not to engage with them. But then at a certain point, because I tried all the different things, like I tried communicating with them, I tried educating them, I tried telling them about entropy, I tried negotiating. I really am a diplomat from a higher dimension. And I went through my entire procedure of escalation, first attempting all of these lesser things, and then in every effort being met with nothing but violence. And then at a certain point, in recognizing that my enemies and those who were holding me captive only spoke the language of violence, then becoming violent and then embracing that violence, both psychic violence and physical violence against them and those who carry their signals. So out of that trajectory, I learned not only how to dismantle the nanotech that was growing inside of me, and how to protect my own DNA and to equip myself more deeply and fully to protect myself from their pollutions and manipulations and intrusions. But I also, through non-locality, I learned how to do this for others. And that was a very, very big thing. So I am a planetary protector on the abstract sense. A lot of the work that I do as Flying Rainbow Lasagna is on the energy field that protects everyone here. But I also began to learn how to work on an individual person, how to clear out their neurology from micromachinery, how to clear out their synapses, how to restore certain capabilities and clear out metabolic byproducts from the things that, we've all been pretty much subjected to the same tortures here. So basically, I learned how to protect myself from the tortures, stop the effects of the tortures, fight effectively against the torturers, and help other torture victims. And I did a bunch of things to heal my body because clearly I'm restored and I look a lot better than I looked in 2021. Some of that was about effective nutrition, but some of it was about supplements and other things that I needed to do in order to shield my body more effectively, detox or purge pollution, and give my body extra healing on the things that needed to be healed. So some of the things that helped me a lot were taking small amounts of methylene blue, high doses of vitamin C. I also started high doses of melatonin, started working with the red infrared light with that shaking platform. I always have done a lot with CBD and raw cannabis and THC, but for a little while I didn't have my garden, so I returned to doing that and found that that was a huge positive impact on my life. So I stay with my high CBD and my raw cannabis juice regimen. I had to learn how to use Flying River Lasagna in almost a completely different way. because I have been using it like as a beautiful artistic tool. I had to learn to use it as a cosmic toilet scrubber. And then sometimes I had to learn to use it as a weapon of war. And that was not really my intention when I created Flying Rainbow Lasagna, but it became apparent to me that I needed to do that. And in September of 2024, what I did was I wrote a treaty that was where myself and the abstract fabric of time were allies against these time manipulator evil enemies. And it was a formal treaty. And the treaty basically was to state that, having explored all of these other less violent options, that I would now be moving fully into entropizing the people, organisms, and individuals that were responsible for these negative impacts on me as an individual and on the time field, and that all this was being done, the enemies and what they were doing, it was criminal against cosmic law. Like all of these genetic distortions were highly criminal. And it became apparent to me that whatever cosmic law enforcement is supposed to step in and intervene in those situations and circumstances, they did not. And so I wrote that treaty and essentially stepped up and said, I am cosmic law enforcement. So of all of the things that I went through, the biggest change was my own inner self-definition or assessment. I had been thinking of myself as a diplomat or, a communicator, an intermediary, an artist, a musician, a visionary, somewhat like healer or medical intuitive, but I very much had to become a warrior and an enforcer of cosmic law and an enforcer of cosmic boundaries, because the formal systems that are supposed to do that have been completely absent. There's been a failure on very, very high levels of cosmic infrastructure, of all the things that are supposed to prevent bad garbage from getting to this planet, and bad garbage from getting to each one of us as individuals, and bad garbage from getting into DNA. And what really had to change was an inner resolve in me that I was like, if I didn't do something, this bad garbage was going to get into DNA and then spread and proliferate into all DNA everywhere. And that would be a complete tragedy and a complete pollution of something so beautiful. And I chose not to let that happen. So I have claimed my place as cosmic law enforcement, and that is essential. And sometimes I even teach and mentor others in how to do that, but it's black belt level stuff, and I don't expect everyone to do that. So that is why I do it for the world, so that you guys can have a life. Like, I am very happy when I see people taking their kids to the playground. Like Chiki and I were going to go to the park. I'm going to do cosmic law enforcement while we're walking around so that kids can play on the swings over at the park. Got it? I'm very, very happy for those kids to grow up with their minds not being horribly enslaved, with their DNA not being horribly polluted, with like a chance to grow, evolve, and ascend to their optimum timeline as they should have. Um, uh, Sorry, clearly this is not part of my prepared notes, so that's why I'm umming so much. But Pedro says, I finally bought some methylene blue. Should get here next week. Any advice on how best to use it? Yes. Best to take it first thing in the morning with plenty of vitamin C. You do not have to take a lot of methylene blue. Literally one droplet is enough. So if you got a little tincture bottle this much, that's like a year's supply. One droplet per day. Drink it with plenty of water, and then the high doses of vitamin C work in conjunction with the methylene blue. And then also what I like to do is use the red chicken light, but I usually do that at night as part of my going to sleep habit, where I will put melatonin on my skin, get into pajamas, put my red light on me for like the first, hour or so, like before I go to sleep at night. Sometimes I'll leave it on the whole night if it's, if it's not hot and some gross in the summertime. But the infrared light, methylene blue, and high doses of vitamin C, they all prevent the calamari from growing inside of people's arteries and veins. Kimbrough says, I got my infrared chicken light up, set up last night. Good job. How close should it be to my body? Should I do it at night or in the morning? How long to use it? Any dangers or warnings? It should be not too close to you, like maybe this far away or further because it's hot. So just whatever you have to do, you have to make sure that it is on a metal stand. Put a sandbag or something on the stand so it doesn't tip over. Watch out for your children or dogs or anybody who might be uncoordinated from walking past. Like keep it in a safe place so it's not going to fall over on stuff. And make sure that it doesn't get too close to you to burn you or to ignite your bed or your quilt or anything like that. Those are the only things. Just be fire safe with that. Other than that, I rotisserie myself. Like I put my melatonin cream on and like first I do like this side, and I switch myself around, and then I do this side. You know, you kind of like get yourself cooked through, and it will feel really, really wonderful. And she says, do you dissolve your melatonin powder in water before mixing it in the cream? Nope. I just put it directly into the cream. I actually have a friend who has a whole little business of making the cream and emulsifying it in there. You can get as fancy as you want to, but I get good results just taking whatever is my regular body moisturizer and mixing in the powder into it and then applying it directly to my skin. So yeah, you don't have to get too fancy, but you can definitely get fancy if you want to. And some people are using DMSO also as a carrier, but I am very yellow flags caution on DMSO because that stuff makes your skin very absorbent. And whatever is on your skin goes into your whole body very deeply when you put DMSO on. So if you have undesirable micro machines or something like that, fungal gross stuff on the outside of your skin, you put DMSO on there, the microfungals will go inside. Like you don't want that. So in order to use DMSO effectively, you have to clean your body very, very effectively. And if you guys haven't heard like my sharings or whatever, like I encourage people to wash with a gentle cleanser. Like I don't wash with a very strong soap and try to like sanitize my body. I cultivate a positive microbiome in my body, so I just use gentle cleanser. So that's why I have not used DMSO. I would say experts only, yellow caution flags, experts only. But the red light, I think that you can only benefit from it. It's kind of funny, like it's been hot here where I live, and I haven't used it that much the past week or two. And I definitely noticed a difference in my body, in my skin texture and tone, and just other levels. So I'm like, okay, it's clearly doing something for me. I've used it for like 2 years and just took a little break and noticed that, I definitely because I do lots of exercise, lots of dance, everything like that. I have a little bit more muscle soreness and a little bit more, just like not feeling so much energy. So it's definitely worth it. All right. And Joyce says, I love and appreciate you, Professor and GET. Thank you so much, Joyce. We feel your love. We are so grateful. Thank you to everyone. Thank you for the beautiful love. Let me see, is Cheeky right back here? I want you to know she feels it, and I send her your hugs and your messages all the time. Totally, because Cheeky's okay. Now I'll wrap it all up, and then I'm going to take Cheeky to the park. Why am I always talking so much about my dog? Like not just because she's a cute dog and I love her and everything like that. These dogs and cats, these are really essential for us as we're going through this planetary and personal ascension. That there's really something amazing about the heart and emotional bond that we have with our animals. It's difficult to achieve that with physical people. People tend to have ego stuff, and you can't just like hug them and be very authentic. Some people you can, but a lot of people have a lot of shielding, right? But animals, cats and dogs, they are here for us to remind us of what real love feels like, and also a lot of amazing just like uplift and fun. Chiki and I literally, we're going to go to the park, we're going to have some fun. And it's important because the things that I talk about, difficulties in our world, things that bring us down, huge obstacles to ascension, all of that stuff, it can make your shoulders go down. You feel like, oh, like this is so hard. But my dog is like, life is awesome. Like, let's play, let's have fun. Like, we need that in our lives. We need beautiful hugs. We need fun. We need playfulness. We need silliness. We need getting out of our intellect and getting into our physicality presence. And so I just can't say enough. Keep on prioritizing your dogs and your cats. Tell them how much you love them. They are really, really important. Yeah. And Jenny says animals feel so safe. Animals are essential to us. Like throughout our whole entire existence, but especially right now with planetary ascension and with what is going on, because so much of this stuff is about like machinery and technology taking us away from our heart, taking us away from emotional connection, making us feel lonely and isolated, making people wonder if they need to like give up hope. And animals, like beautiful cats and dogs, they are here to kind of like remind us like life is worth living. Like hug a dog. I mean it. I mean it. Hug a dog. Brenda says deep gratitude for who you are and for the clarity tonight. Much love. You're very welcome, Brenda. Thank you for being here in the class. And Michael says, thank you, Master Aurora. You're very welcome, Michael. Michael, I know I keep on thinking when I'm in the middle of my dance, I'm like, I think that we're supposed to connect and talk and have some inspiration. So I keep on remembering, which is at completely the wrong time. So let's make that happen. And Kim Rose says, thank you. I'm learning so much. I love your voice and you're very funny. Thank you. Thank you. Aurora's Comedy Hour. No, I really appreciate that, Kim Rose. You know why? Because I didn't used to consider myself to be like a very funny person. Mostly in coming here as Aurora, I have been the straight man in every type of comedy routine. Like I'm totally serious. People will say something like the sky is made out of purple bunnies. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know the sky is made out of purple bunnies. Like, tell me more. Like I am usually that person. Yeah, I've defined my comedy hour very, very effectively because mostly what I do is I try to use humor and lightheartedness to get us through some very difficult stuff. So humor and lightheartedness, these are really like powerful weapons and tools that we use for being able to get through a grueling marathon. It ain't easy, and I'm very happy to be perceived as funny intentionally. I'm being intentionally funny and not unintentionally. And thank you for giving me the latitude to be a little bit silly sometimes and still take me seriously as a professor because I am silly. And I also hope that that breaks the tension. Mary Ellen says, thanks again. Have a good night. Yes, I laugh when your computer doesn't work. I know today's been really bad. I hope it wasn't too annoying, and that you can still get the meat and potatoes of what I'm offering here. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's in this class. Very appreciative for everyone who's able to make the live lecture. And thank you to everyone who catches the archive. And apologies again that I was up in the middle of the night to be able to send out the link, and I did send it out earlier. I'll send out my notes, and what I shared with you was based largely on lesson 3 of level 1. So thank you very much. And for anyone who watches my stuff on YouTube, and if you're not officially enrolled yet, please enroll. I always keep that link in the description. Then you can watch the whiteboards, and then you'll be like, now I know what Aurora is actually talking about because I watched the whiteboards. Okay, so there's a whole hidden dimension that you need to access. All right, good, beautiful.